the embracing uncomfortable as part of a process of discovering the right thing for you to do next. It's such an irony about comfort and uncomfort. Like we think we want comfort, but actually it can hold us back. So I think the first lesson is don't be afraid to step out of comfort zone into being uncomfortable, but then learn to enjoy the uncomfortableness and don't let it go into stress.
Guys, welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories, where we share with you a real life story. Where, yeah, man, we take a deep dive into the minds of these remarkable people who have pushed past all kinds of limits, stepped out of their comfort zone to achieve something remarkable. Because we think that there is a story out there that you can absolutely relate to. And today, I'm so pleased to welcome Eleanor Tweddell to the show. My friend, Eleanor, welcome.
Thank you, Devon. It's so lovely to be here. We were just discussing this cold, crispy day in England. So yeah, lovely to be here with some warm conversation.
Yes, indeed. Well, I mean, for me anyway, England is synonymous with cold weather, so I'm sure you're at home there. But here in New York, we're getting the first snows as well, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
Um, so as you hang out there in crispy, cold England, Illinois, can you tell us what it is that you do? How do you serve? How do you bring value to the lives of others?
Yes. And wow, it's a big question that, isn't it? When you start sitting with like how do you actually serve others? Yeah, I was starting to think about, wow, what do I do? But I guess I work in the space of change. So I help people through change. And as I'm going to share in a bit, my story of redundancy, losing my job, and then what happened next. And I expanded that. So I really became a specialist and really intrigued in how we navigate change as individuals, as teams, as organizations, as leaders. And that became my obsession. So, yeah, I guess how do I serve others? I help them navigate change, hopefully to see opportunity or just to feel like there's hope in amongst all of the messiness that change brings.
Indeed. So are you working then as a corporate coach, a personal coach? How do you deliver your insights?
Yeah, I work as a consultant in organizations, so I will go in and help to really map out like what's going on. Like, is there a story we need to tell? How do we help employees? Or on an individual basis, yes, a coach, mentor, sounding board. I think I'm more like a sounding board, that space that people could just ramble, let it all go. Let's see what's going on in there. So yeah, that's what I do on an individual basis.
Indeed. So yeah, we definitely know that if there's one constant in the world, it's change, and it is chaotic, it is messy. And so if there's an organization out there that is going through the pain of change, or a person who is dealing with that messiness, that um, chaos that change brings, and they want to be a sounding board, they want someone to help them, tell a new story, how would they find you, Eleanor?
Yes, well, I hang about on LinkedIn quite a bit, so definitely follow me on LinkedIn and drop me messages. Love having little messages from people. And also my company is anotherdoor.co.uk.
Anotherdoor.co.uk, or on LinkedIn. Awesome. All right. So, Eleanor, tell us, please, your keep on pushing story, a time when you had to maybe navigate change yourself, or just step out of your comfort zone, overcome, some limiting situations to achieve and to move forward. We are curious. We are all ears. Please tell us your keep on pushing story.
Yes, keep on pushing. I just really love that sense because sometimes we don't want to, do we? We don't want to push. We're exhausted. And I was really thinking about that the moment that I was made redundant from my corporate job. Like I lost my job through restructure, so I was laid off. And I was loving doing that job. So it wasn't even like I was kind of thinking, oh, good riddance, maybe this is good. I was actually really loving it. I was running the graduate program and leadership development. and it was just wonderful. So yeah, I was really heartbroken, but it was after 21 years in corporate life. So you start to think, okay, so maybe this is a moment, maybe it's a gift, but it doesn't feel like that right now. But maybe it's a moment I stop and think, what can I do differently? And I think the keep on pushing bit at that point was more keep on exploring, don't let go of the idea. So it wasn't so much like a physical thing at that point. It was more like your mind, don't switch off from the idea that this could be a good thing. And I mean, it's too easy just to lose a job and then you just apply for the same jobs that, you've always had. That's what we react to, isn't it? And that's what we go into comfort zone. So I was doing that. I was applying for jobs. I just needed money. I just needed to get back into work. But every time they asked me that question, why do you want this job? I just was desperate to say, I don't want it because I have to have it. Like,
Right.
I need it, like as if I want to be sitting here. And I thought, oh, this is wrong. So the keep on pushing bit for me, I think, was well, keep exploring, don't let go of this idea that you might be doing something else. Like, could I start my own business? Could I work in a different way? So that's how it showed up for me.
Um, Interesting because especially after the last few years of the world going through COVID and shutting down and having to transition from being in the office to remote, and clearly, whether it's COVID or not, companies going through reorganization, restructuring, downsizing. Choose the term that you like best. And people being on the short end of that tend to find themselves desperate, lost. What do we do? And I get it, as you say, you needed money and so on. But what was it that allowed you to kind of reframe this idea of being let go to, hey, this could be an opportunity. This could, you work for 21 years. I assume you've never had a business before, but now you're thinking about that. What triggered that?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one because I now work with people in that space, and to hold yourself in that space for long enough to let something grow and then actually have the courage to jump and do something about it. It's really nerve-wracking, especially with finances coming at you. The bills don't care you've lost the job. They're still coming at you.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I think for me, it was like a little voice saying, like, do it now or never. It was just this little thought. And I watched as these things do, sometimes little gifts come along. I watched a webinar about someone talking about curiosity and always keep space for curiosity and little bits of magic to come along. I think it was Quincy Jones actually that was getting interviewed, and he was like, hold that space for a little bit of magic. And it just stuck in my head, like, well, what if I can do it? Other people go and start jobs and start businesses and do something different. Why not me? And then I just started being really uncomfortable and putting myself in positions that I probably wouldn't have, and understanding that that was part of the process. Like, this isn't going to be comfortable. So it's fine. Like, get uncomfortable, go along to a business networking event, which is what I did. I had no business, but I was now surrounded by people who are running their business. Like, it was completely out of my depth. But I thought, no, listen to how they're talking, ask them how they started, just get conversations going over coffee, just get a little bit uncomfortable and see what happens. I was still applying for jobs at the same time because obviously we have like one step in the future, one step in the, past of like,
Yeah.
well, but this is maybe what the reality is. But
Hmm.
yeah, I just started doing things a little bit out of comfort zone, and I got bigger leaps from it. I had great conversations with someone who was like, "Oh yeah, I'll spend an hour with you and tell you about how I started my business." Little gifts like that started to come along, and it started to feel possible. So yeah, I'm not going to say it was very easy, and I was definitely taking small steps, and but it's the embracing the uncomfortable bit that I think made the difference.
Yeah. So as you're talking, I'm drawing this, forming this picture in my head of you being let go and kind of the creation of that storm, if you will, and and that storm has pushed you out into the chaos of the sea of uncertainty as you work to get like to the next harbor where your ship has landed, you have started your business. And I'm curious about that mindset. You talk about um, being willing to be uncomfortable, and some practical things that you did, like getting out there in networking groups and meeting business owners and so on. Can you expand a little bit on that, how you are managing that mentally, emotionally, psychologically, that sea, that storm of uncertainty?
Yes, and your mind definitely goes wild in these situations, doesn't it? It starts to tell you all sorts of stories about what are you actually doing? Can you just get back in your box? All of that stuff. The chimp shows up, the chimp paradox shows up and starts chatting away at, what are you actually
Yeah.
doing? I started writing. So for me, I got a journal, just a notebook, and started scribbling my thoughts, just like notes to myself, which is kind of a practice that I get people to do now themselves. Just write everything that's coming out. And then I started getting a bit braver and thought, why don't I put this on a blog? And I'd never done anything like that before. Just started a blog. It was terrible. Like I didn't know how to set it up. I didn't know how to publish it. It was really messy. It was a terrible first draft, as they say. But I just
Mhm.
started thinking, well, why don't I write about this? And then I got the next step of bravery and put it out onto LinkedIn. This was kind of 8 years ago, maybe not as thriving as it was now. But people started reading it and contacting me and saying, oh, I really liked what you said. I've lost my job. Maybe we could chat, maybe we could meet up. So it was just doing these little steps, I think, that helped me keep in a space of possibility. And the writing just kept developing, and I started really enjoying it. And then I started interviewing people through the blog who'd lost their job, who were reinventing themselves. So, and they were really, willing to share their interviews on the blog. And it just kept building from there. And I just went with it. I'd sort of let go of everything that I kind of thought. The voices were still coming up, but I just did it despite it. And I wrote that on a post-it note, do it despite it. Do it
Mhm.
despite all the negative internal voices, everything that's coming up for you that you feel like you shouldn't be doing, do it anyway. And that really helped me to keep going, hold the space. And eventually I found a little bit of work that was like a nice in between. I started a business, I set up a business, but it was like a contract that I was familiar with in the work. So suddenly it didn't feel like a huge leap. It just helped me to start my business, but under the sort of banner of a small business. So yeah, it's finding those kind of pace that you feel comfortable in doing.
How do you think that journaling helped you?
Yeah, journaling's an interesting one, isn't it? I've noticed at the moment I only journal when I'm having a bad time, and I need to change that. You should scribble stuff all the time. Like, why do
Yeah,
I only just get out a notebook when I'm having like a wobbly time? And bad times come all the time when you're running your own business, like 8 years later, still having, doubts and times of like scarcity and all that stuff. But actually, I think it's just allowing, it's almost like a internal conversation, and things come out and you just feel better that somebody's heard you, even if it's your notebook,
right.
even if it's yourself. Sometimes I'll write lots of things on pieces of paper and I'll literally just rip them up afterwards and put them in the bin. I just need it out and feel like, okay, it's gone. It's gone. So now I can clear that space to do some good thinking of, so what am I going to do? Because I can sit and wallow and I can sit and worry, or I can sit and take action. And I think that worry and wallow disappears when you've written it down.
Right. So you just need to get things off your chest, basically. Unload your mind.
That's it. Yeah. Some people who don't maybe like the writing part, they'll find a buddy and it'll literally be their kind of outpouring buddy. And the deal is that each person is allowed to just ramble and get it all out. No judgment, no recording, no nothing. They just blah, 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 and then they're done. And I quite like that because I know not everybody kind of likes the writing side, but just having a buddy space that you can just absolutely let go with no judgment. You don't want to fix, you don't want any answers, you don't want any advice. It's just a space. It's brilliant. Yeah. So that's another way of doing it.
Yeah, you said two things that I thought were really important. One is, you getting started with the writing and the blogging and LinkedIn and so on, and how imperfect it was, right? But
Yes.
you just did it. You just started, right? And how that grew, how you became more comfortable with it. People started to respond to you. You got to the point where you're interviewing people, and that was interesting. And then just how you were scared, but you did it despite the fear, which is courage, right? And of course, as we go through challenges, changes, transitions, they can be very uncomfortable. But you
Yeah.
have learned to be comfortable with the discomfort of going across that sea of uncertainty. Um, Eleanor, what would you say is our couple of big lessons that you took away from the experience with?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that piece of, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, the embracing uncomfortable as part of a process of discovering the right thing for you to do next. It's such an irony about comfort and uncomfort. Like we think we want comfort, but actually it can hold us back. So I think the first lesson is don't be afraid to step out of comfort zone into being uncomfortable, but then learn to enjoy the uncomfortableness and don't let it go into stress. So that's the really important bit, when it starts to feel really stressful and out of control, and no, that's not where we want to be. Uncomfortable is just putting yourself in situations that, think, well, what if I just drop a pitch to someone that I want to work with? What if I just like put myself out there for a job that I feel I have no qualifications for, but start a conversation? That's what uncomfortable is. There's not a lot to lose in it. So I think it's having a better relationship with being uncomfortable is probably the first thing. And then the second thing, I will echo again your thing of the perfection part. I've really learned coming out of corporate. I used to be really detailed, and I probably still am to a degree, but I've
Mhm.
let go a lot of things that perhaps I would overthink, and perhaps I wouldn't do things until it was absolutely right. Whereas now I'm quite happy to be in a space of maybe getting a few things wrong or asking questions. Never be afraid to ask questions. Just put your hand up, approach someone, ask a question. People love to try and help you in the space of asking a question. So don't feel like you have to have answers. Don't feel like you have to have everything right. And suddenly you get opportunities in change. Suddenly, if you're going through change, I think that's where opportunities sit.
I love what you said, create a better relationship with being uncomfortable. That is, I think, the key there because we love, as I said earlier, to be in our little cocoon, right? Just like being comfortable and snug in what we know. But you can't get through the sea of uncertainty to the port unless you decide to just deal with the discomfort, right? And asking questions. Your story that you shared with us, definitely I know will resonate with many people because we do live in this world where change is inevitable. It's happening every single day. Almost every single day, somebody is getting downsized or get to that point in their career where they have to decide whether or not they're going to stay in the corporate world or you know, step out, launch to go pursue this little idea that's been gnawing at them for decades. And I know how unnerving that could be. So thank you for being such a shining example of someone who, yeah, took on the high seas of uncertainty and sailed into a safe harbor. Very inspiring. Thank you for joining us, Eleanor.
Thank you very much for allowing me to share. Loved it. And yeah, as you say, keep on pushing. There's always magic on that other side. You've got to keep going beyond how it feel, wherever it feels comfortable, keep pushing beyond. So yeah, you keep doing your great work, Devon.
Indeed. Thank you so much. And guys, if you enjoy this, if you found value in it, don't forget to drop us a like, but also share it, man, because there are others out there who I think could absolutely benefit. Until the next time, you know what to do. Keep on pushing.